There's many board game conventions on the horizon.
But what 10 games would we take to them? Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian, and together we are BoxedMeeples. Now, last year we were lucky enough to go to quite a few conventions. We went to Aire Con, to UK Games Expo, I managed to go to Essen, to Comic-Con even, several local ones around here. And I don't think we're going to be able to go to quite as many this year, but we have got Aire Con coming up, and it's had us thinking, what 10 games is it that we think that are just perfect to take to conventions, or styles of games that are good to take to conventions. So as the convention season starts all over again for another year, we thought, what a better topic.
Yeah, so let's dive straight into it. For our first game, we would take to a board game convention. There's many kind of requirements I have a board game convention game. It needs to be small enough that I can pop it into a bag, so if I ever bump into a group of people I can play it with them. It has to be simple enough that I can explain it quite quickly and we can all start playing. So games like Inside Job are perfect for this. Now if you don't know this game, it's kind of a social deduction game that involves kind of trick taking. It's similar to kind of The Crew, but with a traitor involved in that. So if you know that game, you kind of know what we're heading towards. And I think those kind of games, certainly when you're starting out with a big group of people that you don't know each other particularly well, are great for kind of getting that conversation going. It's not so heavy that you are pointing at saying, you're a traitor, you're a Nazi, or you're a communist. It's light enough that it's kind of light-hearted, but it gets the people engaging in the fun banter that's always inherent in these kind of social deduction games. So that's why I think Inside Job is really great. It's kind of light-hearted, kind of cartoony, very quick to explain. I think trick-taking games generally are quite quick and easy to explain because everyone knows how to play them at their very core if they played any card game ever. But this is a good go-to one.
Yeah, it's great when you're able to call someone out and say, oh, I thought you said you didn't have any blues, but where's that come from?
And there's enough kind of variety in it with different characters you can introduce to the game that if it goes well on your first game, you go, well, let's play that again, but let's mix up a little bit.
My first choice is almost the complete opposite of what you've just said. And I think it certainly does depend on the convention. Perhaps I might not pick this for something like Essen or UK Games Expo, but there are a lot of conventions out there like Aire Con that we're going to, which the focus is more on the gameplay than it is on the sort of the retailers and the publishers and things, and you do get more chance to sort of sit down and play games. And some of the beauty of that kind of convention is when you get to meet up with people that you've not seen for a while, gather down and play a game. And so for me to have a game on there that's been one that I've been dying to play for a long time, it might be something a bit heavier, and so I'm choosing Vindication for this one, which is
it's not quite pocket sized.
No. And I think you do have to consider the convention as to whether you do take a big box like that, because obviously that does mean you're lugging around your board game bag all day. So if it is a smaller convention or a more gameplay focused convention, that does mean that you can sort of, nab yourself a table and you're not exhausting yourself before the day's even begun. But there are conventions that do allow for that. So I wanted to have one of those sort of bigger box games that I'm really excited to play for the first time. We've organised friends who have agreed to teach us, so I mean, perfect. And it does give that opportunity where we don't always manage to fit in board game weekends and things like that. So having a convention that does allow that sort of gameplay, it's good to have a bigger box. And at the moment, Vindication is high up on my want to play list, but this could be a Dwellings of Eldervale, this could be an Anachrony, this, any of those kind of bigger game, get your teeth into it, couple of hours, 3 hours maybe, and there'll be some conventions where you don't want to spend that amount of time on one game, because you're needing to see everything that's around, but ones where you can sit down and play. Taking one epic game sounds great to me.
Yeah, after all, who goes to board game conventions? Board game players. Who's good at teaching board games? Board game players. And as a tip, if you're bringing Kanban Eevee, there's definitely someone who wants to play that.
Yeah.
the evening's wearing on, maybe a few of the adult drinks have been drunk. I like to have an upbeat, slightly silly game where random chance is an element of it, and you embrace that. So Camel Up is really great for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're semi in control of what's going on, but not always. There's always kind of random elements that happen, and the silliness of it is inherently part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, how fun is it to go Camel Up?
Camel Up.
And you kind of think in your head, oh yeah, well, any kind of racing game could take this.
Yes.
So, but it's actually a betting game. So it's interesting the way it sort of combines those two things. And yeah, who doesn't love camels that stack, right? And it adds so much jeopardy to this game.
It's so silly, you know. Suddenly there's a whole mound of camels that can start moving around together. There's some expansions you can chuck into this, which add, you know, photo finishes and things like that. And yeah, it's not, you know, a gamer's game necessarily, but it's one that we've always enjoyed playing.
Yeah.
Again, quick to explain, yet high engagement. And I know there's lots of kind of betting games that have come out recently that are very, very popular. A lot of the particularly American conventions that I'm very eager to play. So yeah, we can substitute in any kind of just group getting around the board and cheering games here.
Add those fun vibes. I think a convention, you know, you're there to have a good time and to bring out those games that bring the fun and the life, laughter, anything.
May want to section yourself off a little bit, you know, because there might be someone being very serious next to you and they might be annoyed by you cheering at camels. But yeah, Camel Up, great fun.
Next up for me is Planet Unknown. I think this game is great. I love that it does go to a slightly higher player count, which I think at a convention is great because, you know, the more people you get to play games with, in my opinion, the better. It's fantastic the way it works with that Lazy Susan. So you're all kind of able to grab what's in your line. So it makes it quite usable, and again, it's easy to teach. It's got that little bit more going on to it than some of the sort of polyomino type games, but it's still super accessible, just that you're going up those tracks and things as well and trying to combine those tracks and where you're wanting to get what special elements or powers you're wanting, where you're notching up to another victory point versus what you're needing to lay and where you're needing your rover to go, those kind of things on the board. But yeah, a super fun game. It's got lots of variability, so you can, you know, if you're playing with people that haven't played it before, of course, you can do the sort of base planets. But if a few people around the table have played, you can flip over and have something completely different going on everyone's little planets. And yeah, just a really fun game to be able to play, I think, that gives you that gamer vibe, but it's still quite light.
And I think it's got a nice table presence, that one. Often
really does.
We've played games where we've played, you know, in some more local conventions of people who don't play as many board games as us, and they see us playing and go, oh, I didn't know such a thing existed in board games. So having that kind of mechanism where the Lazy Susan spinning round might just seem a bit interesting to new people. Go, oh, I'd like to give that a go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to dip in here and I'm going to end up giving you an honorary mention. But I remember we went to a local one and we were playing Featherweight Fiesta, where you have the birds on the line and you're pulling them off and trying to position them in different orders. And yeah, the table presence for that and the people that were coming over saying, what's that game? Oh my gosh, that looks super interesting. That kind of thing happens at conventions. And I think this, in its own way, not quite flying birds, but it does do that in its own way.
Now, conventions I've been to, I've been walking around, I've been on my feet all day. I don't want to carry a heavy game with me if I'm going to be doing that. And what smaller games can you get than the Oink games?
True.
Teeny tiny games that will fit in my coat pocket if I'm stupid enough to wear a coat pocket in the middle of a very sweaty convention hall. But I think king of all of the Oink games for me is Scout. I love the game. Again, a very simple game to explain once you get the idea of don't touch your cards, don't rearrange your cards, hold your cards, don't move your cards. Once people grasp that, they can play Scout. And yeah, like so many of these games, quick to play, and then teach that, and that's a learning game. Your next game then is your proper game. That's when everyone's got the hang of it, what we're going to do. And if the game's only taking sort of 10, 15 minutes to play, having that kind of learning game isn't a big hardship. But I think, yeah, a lot of the Scout games, Fake Artists, we've played quite a lot in conventions, are all great for just getting out on the table in between other games.
If someone's popped to the library to go and get another game, or you're packing away one and doing something like that, then it's a great filler time, isn't it?
Quick bit of deep sea adventure.
Exactly.
Just getting on the table. And if you're doing, I mentioned I will too, button shy games as well are also within that kind of small box, quick play. So a lot of the button shy games you can engage with very quickly, explain very quickly, and also get a group going on those sort of things.
So should we just recap your number 3? It's Scout, it's Fake Artist, it's Deep Sea Adventure, and all of button shy.
And all of button shy games. Yeah, I've really narrowed it down, honed it.
Excellent.
Very specific.
I think that board game conventions are a great place for people to play those sort of hard tournaments and competitions. Obviously, we've seen a lot of Lorcana recently. There's loads of others that go back, way back. But at the next convention that we go to, there's going to be a lot of Star Wars Unlimited. We haven't seen it yet.
No.
It's quite exciting. We do love Lorcana, and it'll be interesting. We'll probably take decks of that with us. If you can mention 5 games, I'm going to at least consider it. Right? But I know that there's going to be Star Wars Unlimited up at Aire Con, which is the next convention we're going to. And I think that will be really interesting to have a closer look at that, see how that plays. And it is the kind of game where you can have mini match-offs with people, or playing with a little group and do mini tournaments and stuff. And I think that most conventions will run tournaments of those card games quite a lot. And whether you want to enter the tournament or whether you just want to carry a deck around and play it casually with people, I don't think it matters. It depends on if you're used to playing tournaments, of course. But I think that can be quite daunting to someone thinking, oh gosh, like I'm going to a convention for the first time and now there's this tournament, like everyone's going to know what they're doing and I'm not. I mean, the first time I played Undaunted was in a tournament and I made a right hash up of it. I enjoyed myself and I didn't mind that I lost to a young boy who definitely knew the game inside out. That's fine, and that's part of the fun and the experience of the convention sometimes. So sometimes to dive in and take part in that, it can be fun.
So another social deduction game, but a very different one for me next. We've been loving the Facade games, and I would talk about Hollywood here, but we've talked about Hollywood 1947 so much.
Yes.
I'm going to pick my second favourite, which is Bristol.
Yes.
30 and 50.
We have had such a lot of fun with that one.
Another one that's very quick to explain, but quite thematic.
Another small box for you.
Another small box.
Board game bag.
Light.
It's just a little satchel.
Light, easy to carry around a convention. Unlike you, who've
should we swap bags?
You've got a whole board game, one of those big board game bags on a separate trolley. You're having to drag around with you. So Bristol is thematic. It's fun and it's quick to explain, but it is quite board gamey. I think there's an element of card counting you need to do and trying to predict averages while also trusting whoever else is in your cart with you. So there is that element of social deduction, but it's not explicitly as social deduction-y as other ones.
No, what I like about this one is that you've that banter, and I think that works well for conventions where you're saying, have you got a bit of a tickly cough? Is there any sort of lesions on your arms? You're just trying to gather how ill your sort of little comrade in your truck is, as to whether you need to elbow them out,
kick them out and truck behind, and
getting kicked out. Those kind of things that happen, and like when you end up mingling and switching cars and trying to get the vibe of what's happened to everyone that's in that car. That's what makes it fun and silly. And
I do love
the
kind of big reveal at the end of these kind of games, where someone has been fully infected the whole time, just leaping from cart to cart, passing on this infection around, and you ultimately realise it was you. These kind of games are openers for conversation, engagement, and when you're meeting people the first time, it's often just a way of starting. Getting to know each other before you dive into a bigger game where you're going to be sitting with someone for 3 hours. I think they serve a great place at convention.
100%. And I think having been to Aire Con for the first time on my own last year without you. And there was evenings where I hadn't known anyone that was with me before the evening, and now we're very close friends. And it was because of those kind of silly games like that that sort of allowed me to sort of open up. And that obviously the people I was with were obviously incredibly welcoming and lovely. But we played. Could add in another honorary mention here. We played Poetry for Neanderthals, and that's got that same silly vibes. You're going to have to sort of knock someone on the head with an inflatable club. So, if you're going to add that kind of silly vibe, you're definitely going to get to know someone. And those kind of, that sort of fun and laughter just really lets you make new friends at conventions. And that's, as I said earlier, one of the best bits. Next up for me, though, is Poetry for Neanderthals, even though I do think it's great. And if I could fit it in my huge, great big game, I probably would. I'm going with a dexterity game as my choice for that kind of silly vibe game. And that's Buffet Boss. We've had a lot of fun with Viking Seesaw lately, actually.
Any of the Essen games have all been fantastic every time we played those.
Yes, and I think we do have plans to play Master Ninja up at Aire Con.
I'm hoping we play 3 Second Try again, because that's fantastic. But anyway, sorry, yep.
But yes, we're going for that fun, silly vibes here. So anything of that in style. But this Buffet Boss is, I think, Singapore games. And you've got these pieces of fruits and vegetables and things. You're trying to balance them up, and you're pushing your luck as well. The last time we played, I was doing so well. Mine were all stacked up neatly and they're all balanced lovely. And then I had the opportunity to add 2 instead of just 1. And I was greedy, and the whole thing came crashing down. And of course, it's hilarious because everyone thought I had it in the bag, and they were there with their 2 bits of fruit on the bottom because theirs had crashed ages ago. And I ruined it.
You lost it yourself.
So something fun and accessible, again, as we said, it's easy rules, easy to pick up. It's something that everyone's sort of thinking, what are they all laughing about? That game looks fun. You're just stacking pieces of veggies and stuff, trying to hope that they balance. Hope they balanced. But it's a lot of fun.
Finally, for me, I've gone for Captain Sonar. This is because it requires such a kind of specific player count to be good. It works at different player counts, but you're not experiencing Captain Sonar properly unless you've got 8 people together playing it in real time. And then it's such a fun experience that doesn't really get replicated by other games. Where each of you's got your own defined role. You might be the captain trying to steer this vessel, you might be the navigator trying to keep track of everything or the engineer or the weapons master, and there's all this kind of conversation going on amongst your team where you're trying to inform each other what you're doing without telling your opponents on the other side of the barrier what you're doing. And you end up with kind of this kind of shorthand, it's a verbal shorthand where you're telling each other, informing each other, but hoping the opponent hasn't cracked your never discussed code you somehow managed to develop amongst yourselves. And yes, we are fortunate enough to have lots of friends who play board games, who go to a board game social night each week, but we haven't had the opportunity to get that specific amount of people in that specific environment together to play Captain Sonar. So I want to play games like that you only really can ever enjoy at a kind of convention, with the right people in the right atmosphere, with the right mood. So looking forward, hoping it's in the library and we can get some people together and play some undersea adventure bombing each other games.
It's going to take me back to my battleship as kids against my brother, arcing off F2.
Very complicated battleships.
Last up for me, I think people go to conventions and they're hoping to get a chance to play sort of some of the games that are like the new hotness that everyone's been talking about, and not everyone manages to go to all the conventions. So White Castle released at Essen. I was lucky enough to go there. I'm lucky enough to distribute it, so I've definitely played it. But I think there's a lot of people that won't have gotten a chance to see it and play it until they go to some of the smaller conventions or their local conventions and things, and even into the Games Expo. I'm sure there'll be people that will be really excited still to be seeing White Castle for the first time. So, I mean, we can enter almost any hotness, I suppose, from BGG. A lot of them stay up there for a little while, don't they? But White Castle's an incredible game, and I'm looking forward to playing it at full player counts, actually, because we've played it a lot at 2. So to play it at 4 and see how that changes your choices with the dice and how quickly you go things and whether you're going to stack the dice or not and things like that will change the game up. And I'm going to actually, at the next convention we go to, I'm going to be demoing this game. So it seemed appropriate to add it to my, to my list. But it's a fantastic game where you only have 9 moves and you just kind of think, how am I going to get anything done with just 9 moves? But it's surprising how quickly you manage to cascade and combine all these things. So if I do that, I'll be able to do this. And then I could do this, which will also allow me to do this. And it's like, yes, that's so satisfying when you get one of those big moves in. And I love games that do that. It's not too long, but it's super Euro. It seems, full on, in-depth, think about it game, but it's not difficult in terms of the symbology or what you can do on your turn. And it doesn't actually take too long. So for me, it's the perfect kind of gamey convention game. And that's the last one up on our list.
Yeah, so do let us know in the comments down below if we've forgotten anything. Obviously, we've not mentioned big event games like Blood on the Clock Tower that go on at practically every board game convention we ever go to. I'm sure that'll be going on at Aire Con in a number of different ways.
And we'll be hoping to join one.
And similarly, we've not mentioned one of the best things about convention, which is just local designers, smaller designers getting to show off their game, because to be honest, we don't know what games they're going to be. You don't know about what games they're going to be until you stumble across them. And similarly, what hidden gems have you discovered at a convention? They're just someone who needed an extra player. And you've sat down and played this game you've never heard of and absolutely fallen in love with it. Do let us know in the comments down below. And if you're interested in getting any of these games before you head off to a convention, a good place to go is, of course, your friendly local game store. And for us in the southeast of England, that is Chaos Cards. And if you're going to buy from them on their website, we have a discount code in the description you can use.
We do indeed. Yeah, I'm excited to read the library as well. But that's it for us today. So we will see you hopefully at a convention sometime soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching.